In the heart of America, where the Mississippi River winds its way through the soul of the South, lies a tale woven with the threads of music, drama, and resilience. From the dusty roads of Mississippi to the vibrant stages of Broadway, a legacy of artists emerged, each leaving an indelible mark on American culture. This is their story, a narrative filled with passion, conflict, and the enduring spirit of the South. Tennessee Williams, born in Columbus, Mississippi, before moving to Clarksdale, became one of America's most celebrated playwrights. His plays, such as A Streetcar Named Desire and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, are as fiery and passionate as the Southern climate itself. Williams chose to bear the name of his father's birth state, Tennessee, over his own, indicating a deep connection to his roots. It's easy to imagine Elvis Presley, with his own roots in the region, being drawn to Williams' work. Though Elvis' flamboyant persona might not have suited the intimate world of Broadway, his reputation soared after working with Williams, a testament to the playwright's influence. Further south in the land where the air hangs heavy with history, Joel Williamson wrote in his book about Elvis Presley that the region's intense culture forged artists capable of interpreting humanity's raw emotions. Among these luminaries were William Faulkner, Tennessee Williams, and Elvis himself, all living in close proximity, their creative energies intertwining. Amid this rich tapestry of artistic expression, the music of the band stands out as a profound capture of the Southern essence. Their album, simply titled The Band, released in 1969, transports listeners to the heart of the South. Though Robbie Robertson, the primary songwriter, hailed from Canada, his music resonates with the soul of Mississippi, Louisiana, and beyond. It's a sound that feels both familiar and wildly unique, much like the region itself. Yet the story of the South is not just one of art and beauty, it is also marked by deep scars. The treatment of indigenous populations by white settlers was brutal, marked by conflict and betrayal. The story of the Natchez, for instance, is one of resistance and tragedy. In 1940, a tragic fire in a Natchez dance hall, fueled by a single cigarette, claimed over 200 lives, including many members of the band Royal Creolians. This event is still remembered through songs like Howlin' Wolf's Natchez Burnin'. The blues, a genre born from the struggles of African Americans, found a voice in the powerful music of Big Joe Williams. Born to a Cherokee father in Crawford, Mississippi, Williams' tumultuous life influenced his raw and often bitter songs. His music, captured on albums like Three Kings and a Queen, echoes the struggles and resilience of the South. Bob Dylan's involvement in Williams' music underscores the interconnectedness of these artists, with Dylan even serving as a mentor to future blues legends. Chess Records, a cornerstone of blues and rock and roll, had its roots in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Willie Dixon, born there in 1915, was more than just a bass player and producer. He was a master songwriter, crafting hits like Little Red Rooster and Hoochie Coochie Man. Bo Diddley, another chess artist, brought his own unique rhythm to the world, influencing everyone from Buddy Holly to the Animals. Despite his success, Diddley remained humble, once saying he didn't mind if Elvis copied his style, as long as Elvis didn't go hungry. In the coastal cities where the Mississippi meets the sea, tourism thrives. Jimmy Buffett, born in Pascagoula, Mississippi, became a king of this landscape, singing of margaritas and sailing in songs like Margaritaville. His success contrasts sharply with Elvis Presley's, highlighting how different artists exploit their fame in unique ways. Buffett, despite his laid-back image, is a shrewd businessman with his own resorts and a keen understanding of the power of music to inspire travel. Further north in Tupelo, the story takes a darker turn. Chris Ledoux, a rodeo champion turned musician, emerged from this town, bringing the rough life of bareback riding to his music. Meanwhile, Three Doors Down, formed just outside Pascagoula, brought a modern rock sound to the region. Yet beneath the music and tourism, Mississippi struggles with poverty and the wrath of nature, from frequent flooding to the devastating impact of Hurricane Katrina. The state's efforts to boost its economy through casinos, built offshore due to legislative restrictions, show the lengths to which Mississippi will go to prosper. As the region rebuilds, it remains a land of contrasts, where beauty and brutality, resilience and vulnerability coexist in a delicate balance. This is the story of the South, told through the lives and legacies of its artists. It's a story that continues to unfold one note, one verse at a time. Elvis Presley grew up in a world full of music, especially the blues. This music was everywhere around him, sung by both black and white artists in the southern United States. While many think of the Beatles as having brought new sounds to the world, Elvis was different. He drew his inspiration from the rich musical heritage right in his hometown. Unlike the Beatles, who looked to music from far away for their inspiration, Elvis found his influences just around the corner. Elvis' love for music was deeply rooted in his family life. His mother, Gladys, was a huge part of this. She sang in church and loved the blues. Her passion for music was something Elvis deeply admired and emulated. Elvis' father, Vernon, though not as musically inclined in the public eye, was also important in Elvis' life. The bond between Elvis and his parents was strong, despite what some stories might suggest. Both his mother and father loved him very much. Talking about Elvis' family, it's fascinating to explore where they came from. Elvis' heritage was a mix of different backgrounds. On his mother's side, there was Cherokee blood. This Native American influence can still be seen in some family members today. Elvis himself played a Cherokee character in a movie, showing how connected he felt to this part of his identity. However, the Presley family name has roots that go back much further. It started in Scotland, where a man named Andrew Presley moved to Ireland. Life was tough for him and his family, especially during a time when Ireland faced food shortages. They decided to move to America in 1745, seeking a better life. This move set the stage for the Presley family's journey in the New World. Elvis' great-grandfather, Jesse D. McDowell Presley, was quite an interesting figure. He was a man who dreamed of owning nice clothes, a sign of success back then. We don't know for sure who his father was, but this mystery adds to the family's intriguing story. Elvis' family was not without its challenges and unusual situations. His grandfather, J.D. McDowell Presley, had a complicated life, being married to 4 women at the same time. Elvis' mother, Gladys, came from a family where relationships were complex too. Her parents were first cousins, and her family had connections to Jewish traditions, something that even influenced her grave marker. The Presleys were not just part of one community, but were connected to significant historical figures too. One interesting connection is to Oprah Winfrey. As it turns out, Elvis and Oprah could be distant relatives through a common ancestor, a slave owned by Thomas Presley, Elvis' ancestor. This connection, however, doesn't mean they were directly related through anything other than shared ancestry. Growing up, Elvis was surrounded by stories of hard work, love, and sometimes hardship. His family faced many early losses, with some siblings dying young due to drinking and reckless behavior. Elvis himself inherited a lively spirit, with stories of promiscuity and a love for adventure running deep in his family's history. The town where Elvis grew up, Tupelo, was small but vibrant. It was named after a tree, known for its useful bark and gum. The local food, like polk salad, was a taste of the region. Gladys herself came from a farming background and moved to Tupelo to work in a factory, seeking a better life for herself and her future family. In those early years, Elvis was immersed in a world where music was alive and well. His mother's love for Jimmie Rodgers, a famous blues singer, was a significant influence. Elvis' path to becoming the king of rock and roll was paved with the rich musical soil of his southern upbringing and the stories of his family's past. All these elements combined to shape the young Elvis, setting him on a course that would change music forever. Let's talk about Elvis Presley, the famous singer who changed music forever. Elvis was born on April 10, 1935, in a small place called Fulton, Mississippi. His name Elvis was special because his mom liked how it sounded. It's funny how names can mean something when you rearrange the letters. Elvis's name can be turned into lives, veils, and evils, though it doesn't really mean anything deep. Elvis's dad, Vernon, and mom, Gladys, were young when they got married. They loved music and dancing. They didn't have steady jobs at first, but were happy singing together in church and roller skating. They got married when Elvis was very young, and they even lied about their ages to make it seem like they were younger, which was common back then. Vernon and Gladys built their first home with help from family, spending just $150. Life was tough for Vernon, who had trouble finding work and often drifted from job to job. Gladys stopped making clothes when she got sick, likely from carrying twins, which put a strain on her health. On January 8, 1935, Gladys gave birth to twins. Sadly, the first baby, Jesse, died right away. Elvis was born a few hours later. The family kept Jesse's body in a shoebox and buried him without a marker. This shows how hard life was back then, especially in rural areas. Some people think Elvis talked to his twin brother in his mind, but there's no proof of this. His mom, Gladys, believed that losing one twin made Elvis stronger and special. She often told him this, which may have influenced how he saw himself. Elvis grew up feeling unique and special, even dressing differently from other kids. Las Vegas became famous for big-name singers like Elvis, Frank Sinatra, and Liberace. They all came from families that cherished their mothers and loved showing off their wealth. Elvis, like these others, was very close to his mom. The small shack where Elvis was born still stands in Tupelo, Mississippi. It's now part of a bigger area with a museum and chapel, attracting many visitors each year. Nearby, there's a place called Graceland 2, filled with Elvis memorabilia, run by a fan named Paul MacLeod. Unfortunately, his place was robbed and he died shortly after. Elvis' early life wasn't easy. His dad got into trouble with the law for trying to cheat on a check and ended up in a tough prison. Elvis himself had a picture taken as a child looking serious, which looks a lot like the famous American Gothic painting. This picture shows how hard life was for his family. Vernon ended up in prison for a long time, working like a slave on a farm. Meanwhile, Elvis grew up hearing stories about music and wanting to make a name for himself. His journey from a poor boy in Mississippi to becoming the king of rock and roll is one of the most amazing stories in music history. Elvis' life was filled with ups and downs, much like the lives of ordinary people back then. He faced challenges with family, money, and even the law. But his music touched millions, showing that sometimes, even from tough beginnings, great things can come.